First off, I'd like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Double others to those apostles and elders from Great Millstone who teach and rule well. A lot of respect to you brothers out there on the highways and byways, preaching this truth around the four corners of the earth. It's how you taste to the hopeful elect that you guys may be sealed soon. With that, this your brother Dawab Ba from the branch of GMS here in Chicago. And I was thinking about doing this video yesterday, but I was trying to gather together some thoughts, and a few other things happened. So I was like, man, this morning it just kept being on my mind just to do a quick lesson on what happened yesterday. So yesterday I spoke with three people. It was a Judite woman. That was the first person I spoke to. Issacharite man, the second person, and somebody of the alphabet gang, was the third person. And, they spoke to me about certain things all at different times, but it was the conversation was kind of interesting about what they were speaking on. So let's get right to the point, and I'm going to bring out a few scriptures on each one of the conversations. It was just something that caught my attention, yesterday during these times. So the first one was the Judite woman. She was sitting up here talking to me about what happened over in Minnesota. And she was like, Dave, there's a lot of things going on. And she was like, man, now all of a sudden, now that it's happening to them, now they're having a problem. Now they understand what we've been going through for years, now that it's happening to their own people, how the ICE agents are just out of control. And they, she was talking about how they shot the so-called white woman, how they shot the so-called white man. And I sit up here, I'm talking to her, and while we at work or when we around family, friends, hey, look, I say things when I first came into the truth, but now I know how to sit up here and try to just be the Clark Kent, and don't get me wrong. Sometimes it's hard for you not to want to say certain things. So yesterday I ended up saying a few things, not too much to the point, but, just giving a point of view and, and doing it kind of smoothly. So I gave a point of view about a few things. I even quoted a few scriptures, that I said, this kind of reminded me of a few scriptures that I read, and she was like, damn. So with that being said, I'm going to grab a few scriptures that I spoke to her about as far as the times ahead. And this wasn't one of them, but I should have got this one. It was really Isaiah 19. But this is Matthew 12 and 25. And it says, and Yahushua knew their thoughts and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. And if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How shall then his kingdom stand? And this was one of the scriptures I was thinking about, even though I kind of quoted Isaiah 19. But this was one of them I was thinking about too, that, hey, these devils are against each other. These so-called white people are against each other, and it's just a matter of time before it really boils over into a civil war, before they really start going at each other's throats really, really hard, and this was one of the things I was sitting up here talking to her about, and I sent up here, now we all know that this is Yahushua talking to them evils, Pharisees and them back then, to just, who was just totally wicked, but when you look at the scriptures, man, we look at the times we in, this also applies to Esau, man. Esau is about to be divided against himself, man. These motherfuckers are going at each other, man, and it's going to get really, really bad. And that was one of the things I explained to her. Now, here's the other scripture I sit up here and kind of quoted yesterday, but this is Isaiah 19. I'm going to read one, but the point is in two. It says, Isaiah 19 and 1, the burden of Egypt, behold, the Lord rideth upon the swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of. We know the midst of it, and we know that's when the day of the Lord come. He's going to come with them chariots, come with them nuclear missiles, and this place is going to be eradicated, fucking wiped off the map. And here's the real point, though. It says Isaiah 19 and 2, and I will set Egyptian against Egyptian, and they shall fight everyone against his brother and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. And that was one of the things I was sitting up here explaining to her yesterday. This is going to be real time. This is going to boil over into a real bad disaster. And this was one of the things I was talking about. Give me a second, brother. You know, so that was the conversation I had with the Judite woman, about what's going to be happening. Now the other two are kind of similar. I'm gonna put both of them together with the rainbow crew woman and the Iskarite dude. And even though the Iskarite dude said something, it just caught my attention. And it kind of caught my attention because when he said it, I'm like, damn, everything you listen to becomes spiritual. And even the simplest of terms could bring out a spiritual scripture, could bring, give you a spiritual thought. And when he said this, it just gave me a spiritual thought. So I'm going to sit up here, I was having problems with a phone, one of the cell phones. And he was sitting up here and said, Dave, if all things don't work, this is the Iskarite brother. Let me talk about what he said. He said, if all things don't work, then restart it and do a hard reset. When he said a hard reset, he said it a couple of times. And, and some spiritual just clapped in my mind, came into my mind when he said it, a hard reset. And I said, that's what's about to happen. A very hard reset. America, a.k.a. Babylon the Great, is about to be wiped out, and it's about to be a hard reset in this world. Yahweh Shai is coming back to put things in order. And that was what I was thinking about when he said it. But it also goes back to what the rainbow person said too, the young lady. She sit up here and said, Dave, you know what? Me and you talk all the time, and we do have a conversation here and there. And, she's coming to the fact that it's a lot of bad things happening. And she sit up here and said something to me yesterday about it being, she said, Dave, you know what, to be quite honest, the way the world is and the way things is, maybe it is time for a big change. She said, and I feel it coming. And it kind of went along with what the Iskarite brother said, with a hard reset. So it made me think of a few scriptures, and I'm finna grab a couple of them. So the first one it made me think of was 2 Peter, chapter 3, in verse, I'm going to start at 10. It says, this 2 Peter chapter 3 and verse 10. It says, but the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burnt up. Seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons are you to be in all holy conversation and godliness? So it says the day of the Lord is going to come as a thief in the night. It's going to catch a lot of people off guard. At least with this young lady, she actually is having a thought about it, And when I say, and let me explain something. When I say she's part of the rainbow group, how can I say this? Anytime somebody who sit up here think everything is okay, I consider them to be a part of it. My thing is, hey, look, we understand that no, it's not okay. No, it's not okay. Man with man, woman with woman. No, that's going to get wiped out. And if you agree with it, that goes into, what's that? What is that? Isaiah 5:20. Woe to those who put bitter for good and sweet for good. You agree with this shit, man? No, we don't agree with it. Now we in a world where we got to sit up here and be Clark Kent, and we deal with it, but we don't agree with it. So when I sit up here and say that, that's what I was sitting up here talking about with her. She's one of them type that really, really goes hard and how can I say, justifies things with them. So that's what I mean. So I want to put some correction to that. But getting back to what I said, it says, the manner of persons you ought to be in holy conversation, which goes back into your conduct and how you are and how you're acting and what you're doing in the times that we're in, But here's the point that I really want to make. It was 2 Peter 3:12. It says, looking for and hastening unto the coming of the day of Yahweh, thy power, wherein the heavens shall be on fire, wherein the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. Nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for new heavens and a new earth wherein dwelleth righteousness. And therein lies where that hard reset I was thinking about. It made me think of this scripture right here. That's that hard reset. That's going to be that hard reset. The Lord going to come back and just destroy this place, destroy America, aka Babylon the Great, make it a lake of fire, making an example. The only thing that's going to be over here is desert creatures. Ain't going to be no human life over here, period. But that's going to be that hard reset, looking forward to a new earth. That means a refreshed earth, not a new one. Not a one that's going to be blown up and rebuilt or whatever the case may people may be thinking. No, a refreshed earth. That's what it means. The earth is going to get a chance to heal and be refreshed. And that's what we're looking forward to. That's that hard reset. That's the hard reset that the guy said when he was talking about the phone, but it's also the change that the young lady said when she was talking to me the other day. And that's going to be that hard reset. That's going to be that change that everyone's going to, that change that's coming that we of the elect are looking for, because a lot of these people ain't going to be ready for it. A lot of these people ain't going to be, it's going to catch them off guard. A lot of them going to be hurt. A lot of them ain't going to be expecting this. And even with the young lady, the reset that she think is coming ain't going to be no soft reset. See, they got it in their mind. It's going to be something that's going to blend in and be soft. And even though she did say she know it's going to be tough, but she don't really know how tough it's going to be. A lot of them really don't. Here's the other scripture I was sitting up here thinking about. I'm going to grab real quick. Oh, there it is. Second Esdras. 6. Second Esdras 6 and Second Esdras 6 and 7. He said, he then answered I and said, what shall be the part asunder of the times, or when shall be the end of the first and the beginning of it that followeth? And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. And there you go, that hard reset. Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of that refreshed world that follow it. See, once Esau is over, it ain't going to be it's going to be an everlasting Yasharella kingdom. Nothing else. No one else ever is going to ever be in charge of rulership again. It's all going to be Yasharella, the Israelites. That's it. Yahweh Shai, King David, the 12 apostles, the 144, that's going to be your government. Your ruling government. Period. No one else is coming after that. Those are going to be the righteous judge, kings, many me's, many gods, many most highs. That's what's going to be the ruling government. So, and that was something I was thinking about yesterday. I meant to do this video sort of yesterday. It was just something kind of small and to the point. But when I was listening to all three of them and later on in that day, I was like, man, you know what? It's kind of funny, the conversation I had, but it's kind of funny how it all comes together too. What they're all thinking. Now, like I said, the Issacharite guy, it wasn't based on him thinking about this truth or thinking about what's going on. It was just what he said to me about the cell phone that kind of caught my attention when he said a hard reset. And I was like, damn, that's what's coming. A hard reset for this world. But with that being said, hey, I hope it was a little edification in this, man. It was just, man, every now and then, somebody say something, man, or people will say things and you just get a spiritual thought about it. And that goes with the other conversations that everybody else was talking to me about yesterday, too. It just kind of like fit all together. So with that, I'd like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, by Hashem Rakak Wadash. Double honors to those apostles and elders from Great Millstone who teach and rule well. A lot of respect to you brothers out there on the highways and byways preaching this truth around the four corners of the earth. And salutations to the hopeful elect that you guys may be sealed soon. And with that, I always say stay prayed up, brothers. Pray for each other because we're almost up out of here. So with that, I like to say Kwam Yasharella and a Ball. And Yahabatam Malakim. Shalom.